All right, now here is a closer look of the back of the mirror box where I'm going to install the 3 fans that are going to serve as boundary layer fans for the 16-inch telescope we're making here. Now, this is a part that you do not have to do. Traditionally, most don't even put fans on their mirror box, especially boundary layer fans, because it is an extra step. However, I have found that every single time the boundary layers have truly helped me in getting the best planetary views I can possibly get from my telescope. So I'll install them regardless of what the literature says, and every time I make a telescope, I'm putting a boundary layer fan in it. So I strongly recommend them. Now, what I do is I do a complete cutout here, a rectangular cutout, and then I actually will machine a rectangular piece of wood slightly larger than the cutout, and I put a real nice profile on the edge of that wood, typically like a double OG profile, and then I will cut holes in the piece of wood and I'll install the fans in there, and that is going to mount on the outside of the back of the mirror box to kind of give it a nice just an extra little kick, an extra little bit of style to the mirror box. Another thing you can do, it's much simpler, is just cut a hole and cut another hole and another hole, however many fans you want. If you want 5 fans down there, depending on the size of your fans, you could just use a Forstner bit and just cut a nice big hole, and then you would mount the fan on the inside, just directly to the hole, and just put a nice little fan box on the outside, and that's going to make it flush, and it still looks nice that way. So that's another thing that you can do. But I'm going to take the extra time to make a really pretty fan box, and lately I've been making them out of this beautiful cherry tree that I fell a few years ago, and I've air dried the wood, and it's down to about 6% moisture, so it's extremely stable and just has some pretty figure. So I've been surprising all of our customers. Instead of just painting a black piece of wood back here, I have been doing it with a really pretty piece of cherry, or even I've got some white oak that I've been using. So I've just kind of been adding that. I think it adds a little bit to the telescope, and it adds very little weight, and your weight's down here by the mirror, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Now, you see these lines I've made here. This is so I know where approximately the top of the mirror is going to be. So whenever you install your fans, you want a little bit. So right now, the top of my mirror is about right there, and that's at its lowest point. So whenever I collimate, it can come up to about right here. So no matter what, I'm going to have some of that air zipping past the top of that mirror. And then as the scope goes down, or as the mirror goes down for collimation or anything else, the majority of it is still hitting the side of the mirror. Now, these fans don't really serve so much as a cool down agent as they do just knocking off the boundary layer. That being said, if you leave them on, and since I install potentiometers and always have on our telescopes, if you leave them on low all night long, you're going to never notice that they're up there. The vibration is 0. You won't ever notice that the fans are on. And you're going to notice that that mirror keeps up with the ambient temperature as the temperature drops during the night a lot better. So having the fans on have always been a benefit, in my opinion. So anyway, that's your fan box. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of wood over to the edge of my just my router table desk over here, because I've got a little bit of room. And I'm going to use a jigsaw to cut out that rectangle. So I'll show you how I do that. So now for actually cutting the fan box out with the jigsaw, here's how I do it. I'll start with just like a 1/2-inch spade bit, or just something so I can get my blade through there. And so I'll pick a spot, probably not toward the edge for the fan box, because I don't want any chip out on the other side. Or you can do it like this. And so with a spade bit, the pointy part of the bit is going to go down and protrude through the other side. So I can go to the other side. And there I can guarantee myself the minimal amount of chip out on that side. So now I'll throw on some safety glasses, use my jigsaw, and I'll cut just inside the line, and then I can clean it up later with a sander. There we go. And there we have our cutout for our fan box. Now I'm going to add the 2 holes for the potentiometer and the on-off switch. A lot of times you can find just a potentiometer that has the switch built in, but I bought them in bulk a while back, so I actually do 2 holes there. And after that, we are going to cut the sides of the mirror box to come even with the front of the mirror box, that extra cutout we took so it would clear the bottom of the rocker box. And from that point on, we'll do the finger joints, and gosh, that's it for the mirror box. Okay, so I have marked the spot where I'm going to put the hole for the potentiometer and the on-off switch for the fans. And what I'm going to do is go back to my trusty 3/32 drill bit. I want to go with a hole all the way through so I can identify those spots on the back, which is going to be the inside of the mirror box. Now the reason I want to do that rather than just drill the hole large enough for the switch and the potentiometer is I want a little bit of room to wire on the back. And the switches will typically have a thread that isn't too deep. In fact, it's just under an inch or a ½ inch, so it's not going to protrude if I just make the hole. So I need to make a recess in the back inside the mirror box. I'm going to do that with a large Forstner bit, but I want to make sure I have my locations right, so I want to drill first with the 3/32 bit, which I'll do right now. And there we've gone all the way through. Now I'll switch that bit into a Forstner bit. And I'll pull that out. There we go. And what I'm actually going to do next, I won't even record it, is I'm going to take a chisel. I'm going to chisel out just right here so they kind of connect. That way my wires can easily go down from the potentiometer to the on-off switch. So that's what I'll do next, but I still got to drill the holes for the potentiometer and the switch, so bear with me. We'll remove the Forstner bit. Now I have a ½ inch bit for my switch because I use a ½ inch bolted switch, and then I have a 3/8 bit for the potentiometer. Potentiometer is a little bit smaller. So I'll cut it first. Now what I usually try to do, even though you're never going to see the inside of the mirror box, is I'm going to try to barely start that hole on the outside of the mirror box, and then I can finish on the inside of the mirror box with very little or no cutout, tear out. So you just want to take your time whenever you're doing that. Obviously the most important is starting it on the outside because that's what's going to be visible. So if you have any tear out, you'd rather that tear out be on the inside. And there are our holes. So we have a nice smooth hole on the outside and then no tear out on the inside. And again, I'll go with the chisel. I'll connect those two recesses. And after that, we'll set up the table saw with our dado blades. I'll show you my finger joining jig and we'll get started on the finger joints.